It's a glorious morning here in West Auckland. Topic of today, high hamstring tendinopathy, sometimes called tendinitis, but that's not strictly correct, but is kind of close enough for the purposes of this discussion. We're going to talk a little bit about how you get it, what it is, and what you can do about it. I've suffered from it for a few months now, and it's gradually getting better with a series of exercises I worked out with my physiotherapist. I know several people who've had it, up to a couple of years in one case. It took a really long time to go away and potentially could even require surgery if it goes on for a long time or you have a very serious case. Before we get into it, a little bit of a disclaimer. I am not a medical professional, even though I do have a reasonable understanding of the anatomy involved. So if you think you're injured and it's affecting your running or other exercise routine, please go seek professional medical advice from a sports doctor, a physiotherapist, or a qualified movement therapist, something of that nature. In your backside, and high hamstring tendinopathy is quite literally a pain in the butt, you have a structure which is called the ischial tuberosity, which sits on the base of your pelvis, and it's kind of a ring-shaped bony structure. There are three muscles which run from there, your hamstrings, which run down the back of your leg, and they join your tibia and fibula at the bottom of your leg, so your semimembranosus, your semitendinosus, and your biceps femoris. These collectively three muscles form two tendons which insert, that is attached to, your ischial tuberosity in the base of your pelvis here. Now, these can get irritated. So if you spend a lot of time sitting at a desk or you have poor posture, hands up to that, or they've got tight over time because you've not stretched them and balanced the muscles and done your exercises properly, the tendons get a little bit irritated. Now, tendons don't like to be compressed, and what happens is when they tighten up a little bit, they get squeezed over the edge of the ischial tuberosity, and that kind of irritates them, and they degenerate and they hurt. Now, personally, what happened for me is they wouldn't hurt when I was doing stuff, but they would hurt when I was sitting down, so it was uncomfortable and I was very fidgety. And I'd go for a run, it would be fine, but then they would hurt after the run, usually the day after, because it would irritate the tendons further. So, what can we do about it? Well, there's a set of exercises I'm going to take you through today that they've certainly worked for me, and hopefully they will work for you. First of our exercises is going to be a simple hamstring stretch. Now, I have read online that some physios tend to not prescribe, if you like, the hamstring stretch because it compresses the tendon more. Mine did, and it seemed to work for me, so maybe consult with your medical practitioner before you start doing this, as you should with any kind of injury-related exercise routine. So get yourself something like a chair, stand a few feet apart from it, put the leg that you want to stretch up on the chair, have a straight leg but not completely bent, not completely locked, and then just gently lean forward into the stretch. Now, you shouldn't be tearing the arse out of it, quite literally, as it turns out. The idea is just have a nice stretch in the hamstrings along here, and you want to hold this stretch for maybe 30 seconds, nice and gentle, not too bad. And then after you've completed your 30 seconds, you'd swap over. Now, you should always do balanced stretches, so on the other side as well, because otherwise you can create left-right body imbalances. So, go the other leg, there again, straight leg but not completely locked, and just gently lean into the stretch. Hold for 30 seconds, and then swap back. You should feel a nice stretch and possibly just a little bit of tenderness in the back of your leg, but if it actually out and out hurts, you should probably stop and consult a medical professional. I do 4 to 5 stretches on each side, so that's maybe 4 to 6 minutes of stretching total. Eccentric exercise is really, really good for degenerative tendon injuries like high hamstring tendinopathy. So what you need for this exercise is a weight. I've got a cheap 5 kilo weight I bought from, I think it might have been the warehouse or something like that in a sports section, but you could use bricks in a bag, you could use a large book, you could use bags of sugar, whatever's going to work for you. You don't want to use too big a weight, so start low, work high as always. So also, if your balance isn't good, and mine's not amazing sometimes, have something to just steady yourself. And the whole idea is you stand on the leg you want to exercise, you reach down, touch the weight to the ground, and come back up. And what you're doing as you're doing this is you're lengthening the muscle under load and putting the tendon under tension. As you get better, you can get rid of the chair and do like that. And that's probably actually not bad as well, because that will also work the stabilizing muscles too. So down and up. And as with all of these exercises, you try and do it actually under control and not sort of haphazardly, which is probably not great and is likely an injury risk in itself. I will typically do 25 to 30 of those exercises in one set. I'll swap sides. Generally I do one set, sometimes I'll do two, but I'll quite often do that twice a day. Next exercise, the long lever bridge. I find this incredibly good for controlling the discomfort when sitting on a hard chair or something like that, or after running. If it's a little bit cranky, I'll do a set of these, and it really seems to tone down the discomfort or even pain you might feel. So mat again, lie down, find yourself a nice position. Now you can control the difficulty of the exercise by moving your feet in and out. So further down here makes it harder because it increases the tension on the hamstring. If you want it to be a bit easier, you move your leg in. So work out what's gonna work for you by giving it a go. So maybe start here and then move a little bit further out and find the place that's right for you. Don't start right out here, because that's going to put a huge amount of tension into the muscle, and you need to be careful, obviously, you don't injure yourself further. So find where's good. There's about right for me. Up onto like a glute bridge, and then just lift your second leg, and then hold that for 30 seconds. After you've got to 30 seconds, just drop back down, other side, and repeat. And it's lovely to do that on a spring day when I can see the clouds going through the sky. It's really quite pleasant. So I will do 4 or 5 reps of 30 seconds each per set. I'll tend to do 1 set per day. Very rarely will I do 2. And it's just a nice general exercise. And like I say, it controls any discomfort you might feel from it. I find it much reduced after doing a set of those. The final exercise I'm going to talk about in detail today is the side lying clamshell. So I've dug out an old mat and I'm lying down on it, and it's just your classic clamshell exercise. Now, why are we doing this? Because it's not anything to do with the hamstrings, it's to do with the glutes. And the whole idea is it's not just the hamstrings. There are other muscles around your pelvis that support the function of your hamstrings, and we want to use those muscles, in particular the glutes as well, to support your hamstrings, and this will take the strain off them and help them to recover. And also strengthening your glutes is probably a good idea anyway, especially if you're a trail runner. It's really great for running up hills. So, classic side-lying clamshell, lie down, knees together, and raise this. Make sure your torso stays in line. Make sure you're kind of set up properly. I rest my head with my left arm, or right arm if I'm on the other side, and I'll just do that. Do some clamshells. I'll typically do sort of, again, 25 to 30 per set, and 1 to 2 sets. Usually only once a day, sometimes twice a day. And what you're doing is, like I say, you're just strengthening the muscles in your butt, which will help support your hamstrings. Those are some of the exercises I've found very useful, working through it with my physiotherapist, on how to get better from high hamstring tendinopathy. There are some others as well. Hamstring curls are good. My friend Dan does Nordics, and it's quite incredible how he's now able to do a complete full Nordic down and back up. And if you Google or look on YouTube, you'll find tons of videos on how to do those. Those can certainly be very helpful, although I've not used them personally. Now, you need to be realistic about how long this is going to take. High hamstring tendinopathy is a degenerative tendon injury from overuse. Like many of these other injuries, like post-tibial tendinitis, it can take a very long time to get better. The exercises will give you some short-term symptomatic relief, but really to address the disease in the long term and strengthen your hamstrings, it's probably going to take weeks, probably much more like a couple of months. And high hamstring tendinopathy is notorious for being a multi-month, even in some cases multi-year injury. So do these exercises daily, stick at it even if you don't necessarily feel like you're making day-to-day improvement, because it will happen over time. And if you're worried, as I've said several times in this video, please consult a medical professional like a sports doctor or a physiotherapist. I consulted a physio here in Auckland, and he was superb. He helped me get set up with these exercises, so thank you very much, Sithon. And I've seen improvement, but it's still taken me several months to get to the point where I can really feel that improvement back to wellness. I have been able to run while I've been doing these exercises. Now, your mileage may vary. Personally, I felt I wasn't doing myself any more damage by doing them, and at no point did it go from a 2 or 3 on the pain scale to a 4 or 5, and my gait wasn't affected. If you get beyond those kind of levels, or your gait starts to feel affected, you should probably go back to your medical professional and find out whether you should really still be running at the volume you are, or whether you should stop running at all and do some other kind of exercise which is going to work for you.